Hi everyone, welcome to the Legends and Lore Show, the second season, episode 8. And today, as usual, with me are.
Uh, this is Mike, but who cares about me? We got a guest today.
Yes, we have a guest. We have Dave Guriri. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Quite okay. I
I
still
can answer.
mispronounce it once in a while as well.
Okay,
Dave
yeah,
Guerreri.
Guriri. Welcome so much, Dave. And when I got to know you, it was the reason I got to know you in gaming is that you run something called Greyhawk Reborn, which is
Hmm.
so cool. And I met
Grayhawk
you at
Players.
Gen Con a couple of times
Yes.
and a couple of other cons too. So it's awesome. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yep. And we have Blake Ryan Batman
It's
in
here.
the, yeah, and Bavix is here too. Awesome. So there will be, that's, thank you so welcome, and thank you so much for coming on again. It's awesome to have the regulars in chat, keeping us honest here and having all the critical questions and stuff. So
There's a
please,
director.
Dave, can you just explain a little bit about who you are
Sure.
and everyone is dying to hear about Greyhawk Reborn. So yeah.
Sure. Longtime gamer. Been gaming since summer of 1980, almost exclusively in Greyhawk.
Mm-hmm.
Tried a few other things, but always came back to Greyhawk. Played first edition, second edition, third, fourth, and fifth. Um, Had a great time playing Living Greyhawk. First
Yeah.
real dip into the community that developed along that in the gaming community. Before that, it was just friends in a basement and around a kitchen table. And I just loved the community that was there, the people you met, the friends you met, the gaming that you had, and that was all just tremendous to me. I'd never seen anything like that. And 4E came out, and Wizards didn't really support a gaming community with that. They could just there was no need to go to conventions, and I thought it'd be nice to get some people together
Yeah.
again, and
Mm-hmm.
foster anytime gamers get together. It's got to be good for the community. It's got to be good for the gamers.
Yeah.
So we started Greyhawk Reborn way back. We actually just had our 6th anniversary of our alpha
Wow.
playtest
Wow.
a few days ago. Um, we started under the playtest rules of D&D 5e,
Ah, yeah, because
and
that's what I know. Now you're running it under 5e, so you're
yep,
actually kind
Taking
of
it from
older
the
than
ground.
5e in a way then.
yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We started at the very beginning, which makes us the longest running 5e living campaign in the world.
Oh,
No one will
wow.
ever take that from us.
Well,
I
that's,
know.
yeah.
I know. I was really excited when you guys first came to Gen Con. I was like, oh wow, there's actually some Greyhawk
Yeah.
present
Mm-hmm.
there, and
And
uh,
you've had a sizable presence. That was like a whole bunch of gaming room. You had like on and the JW Hilton, you had like a corridor with a whole bunch of rooms and stuff and
Yeah.
tables in them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were running 4 or 5 tables a slot,
Mm-hmm.
which showing up for a couple of years, and not being there all the time and being new was great. We had a lot of new players, and
Yeah.
second year it was very pleasing to see folks coming back and playing with us most of the weekend again. And same thing third year.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get there last year; it just didn't work resource wise for us to get there. We
right.
tried to do some
Same.
other stuff, but we are going to Origins this year. We will be at Origins in June, offering some GHR in Columbus. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And we continue to run. We're based in on the East Coast in the Mid Atlantic states. Pennsylvania is where a lot of us are. We really
Yeah.
run in conventions from the Washington D.C. area up through Central PA and into the northeastern PA area, and we've even been in Jersey and Connecticut a little bit. So that's our home base right now. We're trying to
Yeah.
expand out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a lot of conventions in your that geographic area you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of them. We just actually, as well as conventions, we've got
Excuse me.
one coming up next weekend. We're at Mepicon in Scranton, PA. We'll be running 5, 6, 7 tables a slot there. If you go to mepicon.com, you can find out information on that. And we're on Moorhorn as well. And we just had a game day this past weekend. We ended up running 5 tables a slot at a game day in a game store for our second time there, which is just
Wow.
you know
That's
terrific. A lot of new players coming in, a lot of
yeah.
old players coming back,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's a good time. It's fun. We have fun.
Yeah. So what is the structure behind? How is it? How do you set up the campaign, so to speak? Who organizes it? How come up the scenarios and yeah, so some of the basic concepts of.
It's a very grassroots organization.
Uh-huh.
We have a number of admins. I want to say about six right now, six or seven administrators who administrate the campaign. A couple of them are working on plots and stories to make sure that things line up. They work with the authors to write them. That's Jay Stupinski and John Lent, two great guys who have lots of Greyhawk cred.
Mm-hmm.
They were both heavily involved in writing for the Living Greyhawk campaign in Keeland, which was our region.
Lucky.
Yeah, we had a lot
Yeah.
of fun
Mm-hmm.
there, and so they're doing that, working with plots and stories, and working with the authors. And sometimes we have some ideas we want to tell. We have some stories we want to tell that fit in with a long-term story arc. Oftentimes we write those ourselves. Sometimes we farm them out to some other authors, and we accept proposals from authors as well who have some ideas. And hey, I want to write something about the Dreadwood, the Dreadwalkers, or I'm interested in something in the Good Hills or the Sea Princes.
So
We've
you
had some adventures in Bissell
uh-huh.
recently.
Yeah. So you
So
spread out, branched out across the Flanies,
Cool.
or any.
uh, we're mostly in the Shalimar Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That really comes from
Hey,
my prior experience when we started this. I was a member of the Keelan Triad for about the last three and a half years of the
Yeah.
Living Greyhawk campaign. So became very intimately familiar with Keeland and the areas around it. Um, so we kind of started there, Keeland and Sea Princes, and we had some yeomanry and a little bit of Grand March. And then as people come in and out of the campaign, some things
Mm-hmm.
shuffle at times,
Yeah.
and yeomanry was on hiatus for a while.
Yeah.
And I actually remember seeing within the last week
okay.
somebody else proposing a yeomanry mod.
Yeah. So you
So
run in seasons like the Living Greyhawk campaign and Pathfinder organized play, or how does that work? Is it?
no, not really.
Okay.
We attend about 6 or 8 conventions a year nearby, and we
Mm-hmm.
usually have 3 or 4 or 5 premieres at
Uh-huh.
all of those.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of them we run interactive special events that only happen there, and then we'll have some other events, some other adventures that sometimes will premiere at game days or such. We're a bit different than any other living campaign because we're in Greyhawk and we don't want to have any problems with Wizards of the Coast, and we don't want anybody to shut us down or anything.
Yeah.
We have the requirement that authors must run their own adventures.
Ah.
So we're
Mm-hmm.
basically doing what everybody who has done Greyhawk for 4 decades now
Yeah.
has done. We're telling our stories in our basements and over our kitchen tables and on our porches when the weather is nice, and we're doing the same thing. We're just putting a structure over it and a framework, so there is a consistency to the world. We use the point buy system.
Yeah.
If I was in a home game, I'd much rather have folks roll things up, but you need a commonality, you
Yeah.
need a
Mm-hmm.
structure. So
Yep.
we
Yep.
put that structure on that campaign.
Ah.
All of our adventures that are run by their authors, which provides an incredibly unique play experience because you're dealing with somebody who knows the adventure intimately. They've
Yeah.
written it, they know the ins
Makes
and out
sense.
of it, and it gives a much better play experience than I think overall than any other campaign you
Mm-hmm.
can give.
Yeah.
Um, and it becomes much more of a shared storytelling experience, which is really what we focus on.
Yeah.
We encourage our DMs to, they know what the adventure is, and we want their players to become immersed in it. And that's what we want, that the players are coming to the table with their character and their story and their backstory and what they've been before, and they're going to interact with ours. And we encourage our DMs to do improvisation, to take their adventure to the next level, if you will, and see where that particular table takes them. So
Ah.
that's a greatly different play experience than most other living campaigns or
Yeah.
organized play
Mm-hmm.
campaigns
Yeah.
that are out there, because they want you to run them the same way. They want that consistency
Yeah.
across. Um, I've I've had adventures that I've run that I've co-written with other folks, and people will play adventures multiple times with different characters. And I see this all the time in a campaign, but it just about a month ago, had somebody come up to me and they played an adventure. And I said, I played that adventure 6 months ago with the other guy who ran it. It is just a totally different adventure when you're running it. It's like, thank you for
Hmm.
that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the experience we want, because
Mm-hmm.
we'll go where the players take them,
Yeah.
and it's not three combats and here's your treasure, here's your XP. If people want to find different ways to overcome the obstacles, we encourage that.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
I'll take a breath now.
do
Oh, wonderful.
Casey in chat or Draco wants to know if you consider Living Greyhawk as canon for your campaign.
Um,
Yeah, did it leave off where the Living Greyhawk ended, or have
we
you? Yeah.
we picked up 15 years after Living Greyhawk. To answer Casey's question, I can't see the chat, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. But
Oh, that's
we
unfortunate.
we use it as inspiration. We consider it as canon, but we won't let it get in the way of telling a good story either. So that's kind of our mantra on it.
Mm-hmm.
There were many
Yeah.
things, especially towards the end of LG. They had some wonderful year 8 story arcs happening in and around Greyhawk, with the Bright Sands, with Mordenkainen and Circle of Eight and some stuff. And we were promised that we were going to get results of those, and they were never published. We never found out what exactly the critical events were, if you will. So we just kind of said, well, we kind of here's what we wanted it to be, and that's where we went.
Yeah.
But in our world, I was at the convention in, let's see, that had been 2004, when King Scotty was stabbed and killed.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, in Living Greyhawk, and that's what happened. That's part of what happened in our story.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I do
Okay.
that a lot. One of the things that really sold me on the idea of a living campaign is we were at an interactive one time. It was out in Philly, and it was a royal wedding, I believe it what it was. In Keelan. One of the daughters was getting married, and unbeknownst to me and the couple of guys we went with, the Thieves Guild in Keelan, one of the Thieves Guild, had a little contest going. So we're we're somewhere in the palace and having a little luncheon or something, and meeting some folks and hobnobbing with some bigwigs and soul nobles and such. And their contest was suddenly this one of our table companions pulls out a Qualls feather token tree
Oh,
and
nice.
plants it in the pool inside the palace. And again, this was their thing. They all had these, and they were supposed to plant them in the most unique place to upset things. Well, several years later, playing another adventure, and there was that tree in that same pool. And I just made sure it showed up again in one of the adventures we wrote as well. And to me, that's what's unique about living campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen all the time, but when you can have something like that, and that character can have an impact in the campaign, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's a more living campaign than other living campaigns that is more like canned, organized play events in a way. So
Right.
so
Right.
your adventures, if an author writes an adventure and he gets into the living, it's only run at one time, or how does that work?
We'll run it for a number of times. There's some
Uh-huh.
adventures I've run probably 10 or 12 times.
Okay.
We
Can't
keep
say I
them
ever done that.
we keep them active for 2+ years. So anything premiering in 2019 will be able to be played in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
It does, when it's got to be run by authors, that becomes a limiting factor
That's
in
true.
in
Yeah,
terms
they
that
have to
you
show
need to
up
have
and
the
actually
Sure.
run their
Right.
adventures. Yeah.
right. So that becomes a limiting factor. So there's kind of that. It's not really a regional aspect like LG had. but there is that aspect of it. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
author needs to run it.
Yeah.
And then we have a number of other adventures, anything beyond that time frame. We call them classics if the authors are still around and running, and we dip into those at times because new players come in and we're looking for stuff. Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
need low level tables for like our recent game days we had, which had a bunch of new players. And sometimes it's just fun to go back in and pull out some favorite adventures and run them again. That's what I've been doing at these last couple of game days.
Yeah.
This past Saturday, I ran one of our first adventures again. It was 1301, Peace of Mind, and little some gnomes and some goblins in a mine, and
Yeah.
just a lot of fun to run. So
Yeah. Are these
so they don't
adventures
really retire.
published somehow afterwards or available, or how does that work?
They are unavailable from publishing
Mm-hmm.
for the very simple reason that Greyhawk is Wizards intellectual
No, I
property.
was meaning as fan content. You can release them under the fan, like I do with my maps and stuff. If I guess,
It's
Uh,
or maybe you
it's a
can't. Yeah.
I, the jury is still out on that.
Uh-huh.
We have
Yeah.
recently formed an LLC. It's called Warduke Press. For those of you
Oh,
folks that are listening
okay.
in,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
you hopefully will continue to hear more about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really.
Yeah.
We've got some things we're working on that we're not really ready to discuss yet, but hopefully that will be Warduke Press will be something you will hear about a lot in the
Oh,
future.
awesome. Yeah.
And one of the things that we're going to have our lawyer take a look at
Mm-hmm.
is whether adventures can be published as fan content and distributed. I'm not sure. I don't really believe they can be distributed through the fan content. However, there is the Patreon caveat
Yes. Mm-hmm.
that is on there, and that's something we're looking into. But
Yeah.
Patreon takes time. Patreon
Yep.
takes planning.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our adventures are written differently than other living campaigns because I am the person running it. I only need to have enough information on paper for two people. One is for me to run it, so I get a sense of consistency and what's going on. So I need that type of information, but I don't need the depth of information that I would need to hand to somebody else to run it the way I wanted it. The other thing we need is enough information to have the reviewers look at it, edit it for game balance, edit it for canon, edit it for things like that. But we don't write to the level of detail that you would see in Adventure League because we're not handing these adventures to anybody.
Yeah.
So if we do start publishing, we would need to tidy them up, probably
Yeah.
add some descriptions to it and
Yeah.
add more details to it that are up in our heads right now when we're running them. We need to commit that to paper, and we need to add some maps, and that's part of our plan with Warduke Press is to look at ways to do this and get this content out because
Yeah.
we've been doing this for 6 years. At Mepicon next weekend, we will be premiering our 300th round of
Dang.
content.
Wow.
Most of them being 4 hours. We do have some 8-hour ones that would count as 2, and we do have some smaller ones. So when you put it in that context, we, in essence, over the last 6 years, have basically completed an adventure a week for a living campaign that has
Yeah.
been played. Now, not all of them are playable now, but that's a tremendous amount of content. That's a lot of fun experience of people sitting around tables.
Yeah.
We're going to run approximately 40 to 45 tables next weekend at Mepicon over 7 slots. We'll run 6 or 7 tables of our unique interactive event. So
Incredible.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
yeah.
we have all of that to pull upon.
Mhm.
But if we're going to do a Patreon, you don't go into it half-heartedly. You want to have plans. You want to have
Yep.
you want to have the first 6 to 12 months ready to go, just in case you have
I
some
need to
issues
learn. I
like
need
life
to,
gets in the way.
yeah. I need to listen to your playbook that way because I've run my for a year now, and I'm kind of I feel right now that I'm neglecting it too much. So yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm a planner, and we
Yep.
have great people that we work with. Like I said, Jay Stupinski and John Lent doing that aspect of stuff. I'm going to circle back to them.
Yep.
John is also in charge of our campaign options and standards. He looks over things, and doesn't have final say, but recommends what's appropriate in a campaign, what's not. For instance, we're never going to see Vorpal swords in the campaign, most likely. If you do, you're going to be lucky to pull them from the cold, dead hands of the person who is trying to use it against you, a creature.
Yeah.
But there are some things, it's Greyhawk. We
Yeah.
don't have Dragonborn. Dragonborn are not really
Right.
Greyhawk.
So you're not
So-
100% embracing the
Pardon?
5e player handbook.
No, we're embracing Greyhawk, not 5e.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at.
Yeah. So have you written your own kind of conversion for how to use 5e in
I do have
the
a player's
Greyhawk?
guide.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
have you made versions of stuff that are Greyhawk, but so you kind of adopted the 5th edition D&D for Greyhawk? Have you written your own
No.
kind of player's handbook for it, or like player's addendum or whatever you call it? Yeah.
Yeah. We have a couple of campaign. We have campaign documents. One of them is, I always called it the. It was just a campaign document. It got so. We've been doing this for a while, so it started getting large just in terms of page count as we added options. So we created a character options team. So we've created a number of new paladin paths.
It's your equivalent of house rules if it would be like a home campaign. So
yeah. So we have I forget the names of them, but there's a Paladin of Merlin. Which does some unique stuff. There's a Paladin of Paler and St. Cuthbert and such. We have a few unique backgrounds. We have a few unique character classes and such. And we have our character creation guide, which dictates what you can do. We had to create Backloonish and Soul and
you guys had some character races before, I think, which is the coast had updated them, like Sea Elves and stuff like that.
Yeah, we made our own. Nothing was there at the playtest, and you can't be running Greyhawk without Soul, Iridian, Flan, and Backloonish. So we created those, and we've recently adapted them a little bit to some of the rules that have come up in the 6 years, and we have some special ones. One of our DM's rewards this year, every table we play, DM gets a special DM's reward card, and you can trade them in to get some special stuff. And one of them is this year we have Olman, Tuve, and Rennie available for play. For DMs.
Awesome.
We had Lizard Folk last year, and we've done some releases of races through play opportunities. So you play these series of adventures, and at the end of the adventures, you turn your favors in, and if you've done well and you've played enough of them, you're able to turn the favors in and be able to play a Lizard Folk and so forth. But we kind of stick to canon as much as we can. So we have a whole bunch of docs. We actually have a authoring and writing guideline document as well that we've put together to help our authors, which includes everything from editorial standards and appropriateness standards to just guidelines for formatting and things like that.
I know you said you couldn't access the chat, Dave.
I have Zoom chat open, but
no, not Zoom chat. We're on Twitch.
Go to twitch.com to the Greyhawk channel.
Twitch.tv.
Okay, so I got to open that up in another window.
Oh, hang on a second. I can click you get the URL here in a second here.
Anyhow, if we can get the link for you, I was just going to tell you that one of the people watching our show right now is Gary Holian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Gary, and I'd love to meet him. He wrote a wonderful article that we used a lot in Keeland in Living Greyhawk Journal. Absolutely. Hi, Gary. Gary, nice to sort of meet you.
It's wonderful. He's one of our regular viewers. It's awesome, and he helps out so much in chat. It's awesome. So
Drexel says you're about to have bugbears in your campaign. That's cool.
Drexel? That's one of my friends, I'm guessing. That's one of my co-authors, Tony Antonich, gentleman I've written adventures with, and him and I have traveled the paths of Greyhawk for
nice.
Darn near 40 years now. So,
Very
hi,
cool.
Tony.
Yep, this
I'm
is
looking for the link. Where will I find the link? In Messenger?
yeah, exactly, Messenger. So, yep, there you go.
Yeah, we probably should have clued you in on that sooner.
Yep. I'm sorry about that. We should have coordinated better before.
And once you
Yeah.
click on that link, you'll probably want to mute
Yeah,
Twitch.
mute the Twitch thingy. Yep.
Okay. There it is.
Technical stuff.
Yep.
I think you mentioned that earlier. I just, like I said, I use Hangouts a lot, and
Yeah, we didn't have that many more minutes to before you came on, so we only a few minutes, and I needed to get the stuff. Yeah.
So while you're trying to get on that chat there, Dave, Blake or anyone else listening wanted to know if you guys use the silent ones of Keelan.
Yeah, that's
yes, they are there.
Mm-hmm.
They are absolutely there.
Super
Are
cool.
they helpful or are they rivals? What role do they
They're
really
the silent
play?
ones. They do what they want. You can't stop them. They're the silent ones. They are, they are Sul. They have a mission, and nothing will stop them from their mission of finding all these evil artifacts and making sure that they are taken away from folks that could use them in hazardous manners.
Like players.
So we use them. We actually had, we use them. They're not a driving force in our campaign, but they've been there and have been involved in things. And we have a couple of one specific NPC that we have used quite often that is a silent one.
So do outcomes in when you run a module and you have a certain outcome, is that reflected in the future of the development of the campaign, so to speak, or how does that work?
Absolutely. Generally, we look at if we premiering an adventure, and we will be running it in at a convention. We might run it 3 or 4 or 5 times at that convention. And then if, we'll look at a period of time after that. Sometimes it might be 2 months, sometimes it might be 6 months. We want to get that adventure out and played in a number of manners, in a number of tables with a lot of players. And then we'll set up what happened at those tables. We'll talk to the authors and DMs that ran it and see where they're at. Some things it's very clear how it's going to go. Oftentimes, it's not always very clear. As you guys know, DMing players will often surprise you.
True.
We get surprised quite a bit, and we'll have story arcs set up, or authors will have story arcs set up, and they'll have 3 or 4 adventures planned out. And sure enough, the first adventure just doesn't go the way they think it is, and now the whole story arc needs to be rewritten because of what a couple of tables did, because they took it somewhere else they didn't expect.
Yeah.
Hey, that's good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what a living campaign should be. To sit there and play it. Living Greyhawk was 22,000 people across the world, 25,000 people playing the campaign, which is wonderful. But you need to have an impact on it. Otherwise, you're just gone and you're sitting and you're rolling some dice. And I don't know. I like characters that interact in the world. I like to see an NPC that is or a PC that is involved in the world.
So what are
I want them to live.
Yeah, any memorable epic events that happened in that shaped the campaign, so to speak?
Kind of big.
Yeah, history. Have you killed any major villains in the world, or?
Oh yeah, we bring our own in, and we create our own. We've got Scarlet Brotherhood has been involved.
Yeah.
We've had some things with them and the Black Brotherhood. We have, let's see, one of the things that we've done over the past few years is King Scotty from Keelan. His son, the firstborn, I think they called him Kimmy. He died up in Steric. We found a son of his. Which kind of upset the House Lizal apple cart a little bit. They eventually, he and at an interactive event we had, he and Duchess Irma of Berghoff in the Sea Princes They actually hit it off and they got married.
Oh.
And they now have twins. And our interactive next weekend will involve a festival type event for the twins' birthdays. I think they're just turning a year, if I remember correctly. So we've done some stuff like that. We've Living Greyhawk started 15 years. I'm sorry, Greyhawk Reborn started 15 years after Living Greyhawk. We're now 19 years after the start of it.
So you're way
So
into the
we've moved on.
600s. Yeah, so the 7th century here. Yep.
Right, we are in 619. We've moved on, and we did that purposefully to avoid as much as possible using NPCs that were there before, and also to physically move our players away from playing the same characters they had in Living Greyhawk. Let's tell new stories. That was our theory. So we have some second generation players that have been out there playing, kids of their other characters from LG.
Yeah.
But so we got into Saltmarsh. We spent a lot of time telling stories in Saltmarsh, and we have, Cronin Seeking Forth has passed away. Two of his grandchildren have taken over. Actually, Corinth Seeking Forth has taken over Saltmarsh, and his sister Veneria actually is married to folks over in New York. We are a living campaign to keep up intrigue, to keep up conflict. New Muir is no longer part of Keeland. They have declared their independence. Westkeep has declared their independence. So, that political intrigue is fun. There's lots of stories to tell with stuff like that.
Gary's fell out of his seat by now, I'm sure.
Gary, if you're still there, when we ended LG, we ended up, King Scotty died, again for the second time, because, it's fantasy world. We made it permanent. We had, I don't know whether you'll appreciate this or not, Gary. I loved the idea, and some of the folks I've talked to loved it as well. As he was assassinated at the end of the interactive, the crown fell off of the king's head, rolled down. It was like the end of the Star Wars type of thing where he was assassinated. Everybody was there, and it was a little celebration type of thing going on. Crown rolled down, and it landed at the Weird's feet. He picked up the crown, looked at it for a moment, whispered just enough for the folks around him to hear it. I should have done this 200 years ago, and he put the crown on his head. And that's where we left it. We figured that gives people the opportunity that we're gonna tell a story in their own mind, in their own home games and such, to do that, and that's where we picked up. So I don't know how much Gary likes that.
Yeah, now Ordraka wants to know what's going on in the Bandit Kingdoms in 619.
We haven't really touched upon the Bandit Kingdoms. Greyhawk, it's
created.
Yep. Greyhawk itself, we called it the time of troubles. There was a lot of things going on. We used as inspiration the first edition gold books, if you will, the glossography. We like a bit darker, grittier world where the wilderness is dangerous. We kind of felt the 3 when the population was very high. So we created some things that happened that allowed the population to dissipate, so that it became much more of a points of light thing, which is kind of what we liked. The folks that created it, and then it makes a better story. So,
well, I can tell you that in all 619 common year, it's probably the same thing going on as it is in 576.
Yep. Yeah, the Bandit Kingdoms we haven't dealt with. We've been more in the Sheldamar Valley. I handled plots and stories for a long time, and I have some rough ideas in my head of what's going on, but I'm not going to put anything down on paper, because sometimes people come to you with stories, and let them tell their stories.
You haven't even been tempted to use the free city of Greyhawk?
Yes, we have. We've discussed it recently. And I actually did develop a 28 hours worth of stories there. I'm not going to tell you it's 7. Some of them are 1 hour, some of them are 2 hours, some of them are 4 hour. We kind of put that on hold as we work with Warduke Press, and we're discussing some things there. So We do want to, within Warduke Press, create content that people can play. We can't do that right now distributing Greyhawk by our understanding, although we're looking into that. So we're considering writing some stuff generically and then have it available on DM's Guild or other places for sale, and then basically adapt it and create adaptations for it so that maybe people can play in our Living Greyhawk campaign there.
So Gary mentions something about, he says he smells a Game of Thrones situation. Do you guys take inspiration from Game of Thrones?
Some of our authors do. I will be honest with you. I'm, probably one of the 3 people in the world who haven't watched it yet. I'm aware of what it is and such, but I've never watched it, so I don't use any inspiration from it. My inspiration comes more from Greyhawk itself, more Gygaxian in type of things, and then just other things in fantasy, everything from Tolkien and, Moorcock to Zelanzi and Castle Amber, and, I'd love to get something a little, not really sci-fi in it, but, the foundation story of Asimov is just such a tremendous story. To have something like that would be interesting as well. But, so anyway, the nice thing is that we have with Living Greyhawk, because authors have to run their own adventures. In an ideal world, and one of the things we always hoped that would happen is folks would see what we're doing at Origins, see what we're doing at Gen Con, and say, hey, that's kind of cool. I used to be involved in writing with Living Greyhawk. Maybe find a couple of like-minded folks, a handful of folks nearby you. Maybe they were involved in Living Greyhawk. Maybe it's new gamers in a game store, and start telling stories. Maybe adopt an area of Greyhawk to tell in Living Greyhawk. Write some adventures, create some content, start pulling some more people in your area. I mean, that's how we started. It started with 4 of us sitting around the table going, we want to tell Greyhawk stories. And, we have had, like I said, we have over 300 adventures, or we're approaching 300 hours, rounds worth of adventures, not hours. 300 4-hour rounds. We've had over 70 different authors, right? Some of them are more prolific than others, and obviously life has taken, life gets in the way of some folks writing, but develop your own area. I see a Draco here. I'm assuming that's Casey, if I remember.
Yep.
Casey, if you're interested, I know you got some things going on down there. I know you're running some 3.5 stuff probably still. Get your guys. Let's move it to 5e and let's start telling some more stories, man. That can happen anywhere.
This is great. So. Yep.
So I'm intrigued here. So Gary says that Roger Moore wanted the populations in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer even higher than they ended up being.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
It's entirely possible.
Yep. That's interesting, because I still think at least some of the most populous countries are still not high enough, I think. But that's just so I've adjusted it up, even upwards. And if I start adding all the cities and towns that just appeared in Living Greyhawk on my map, the population numbers are starting to get even beyond, so to speak. And you can reasonably assume in countries like the Ernsts and Furiondi and stuff that a lot of people are living out in the countryside between the settlements too. So then you start having kind of population numbers should be higher than that, and there should be more villages and towns and stuff in areas that are kind of, in my opinion, they should be there. They're not being mentioned yet, but they should be.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
I always loved in the Grand March. What was it? Like 3/4 of the population was part of the military.
Yeah.
Is some things, Gary did a lot of things well. The math on that one was a little bit off, but
well, if you're rich enough, you can import food or live on debts. That's possible for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always liked just that grittier thing. I've liked the idea that it's the wilderness out there, and it's part of the living campaign. So you go out there and you find out what's dangerous, and you stop them from threatening the town and or the kingdom or whatever it is that we keep. And you know what? That's your land now. Now go develop it. I mean, ideally, I would love to see. I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. I admit it, but I would love to see a living campaign so in depth that You go out and you start at low level, and you clear the land. You're given a piece of land, to do what you want with. You can spend money to build it. You get hirelings like in first edition. You gain followers. I'd love to have a mechanic like that, and do almost a kingmaker type of thing. It doesn't have to be out in the wilderness. You could build a cathedral. You could start with a church in town and turn it into a cathedral. You could start with a small thieves guild and build it into something. But to have that and then have those characters get into that depth that Gygax talked about that you could do in a home game in the first edition. I'd love to do that within the confines of a living campaign, and then have your interactive events. Now you've got this. You got to design this area. You don't have to have a great amount of skill, but how many forces do you have there? What are your defenses? How many people do you have living there? All of those are in games that are out there. I think you could model that and create a mechanic for that pretty easy. Next thing you know, the interactive's coming, and now the giants are coming from the mountain. And what's better than fighting to defend your own keep in a living campaign?
Oh yeah.
That's the type of immersiveness that I'd love to have, and that's never been there in any type of living campaign. It's almost hard to do, I guess, but I think it can be done.
Yeah.
And with the idea that you could take that stuff, Jeff in LG, or Geoff, depending on how you pronounce it, they had such a thriving living campaign that was RP oriented. Eric Menge did an amazing job, and Mark Judson and Brad, I forget Brad's last name, and so many of those folks. I mean, they had in character lists for each meta org that stuff happened in game and nobody ever knew about. It was just thriving. It was immersive. With today's technology and the ability to communicate instantaneously, the ability to have it in your phone, I think the technology would make that type of immersiveness so much easier. And oh my God, there's so many gamers that would just love to be able to get into that type of depth.
That's one of the questions I'm kind of curious. How do you keep things organized and connected and stuff? What kind of technology have you built? You have your own website. That's as much as I know, but
we do. It needs to be developed further with our website. We're being a smaller group right now and running 6 or 7 tables at a con, doing that 8 times a year, running some game days. I know that sounds large. It's really small. It allows us to provide a lot of not individual, but we don't have the issues with large people, so large
more
groups,
streamlined.
So, yeah. So it becomes just word of mouth, and we get together as admins and chat every other week or so, and we work that stuff out.
Yeah.
Bavix wants to know if you do Roll20. So
we haven't. We've done once or twice. That's another area I'd love to get deeper into, and it's another way I can see of allowing Greyhawk Reborn or anything else we do in the future to almost spider web out. That's kind of the way I see Greyhawk Reborn growing. It becomes a grassroots type of thing, and somebody comes in and plays and says, hey, this is cool, and they take it back to their home group, and they were doing this. Why we can do this? We've done this before. It just takes another little level of stuff, and they have all the homework done. They have the structure. We don't have to create the structure of the campaign. We just have to tell the stories we want to tell. So I could see something like that. Most of our DMs and most of our admins don't have a whole lot of experience on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or anything like that. It's something we would love to do. It's on our list of things, and unfortunately our limiting factor right now is resources, more so than even money. It's just time during the day to do things. We're creating content. Like I said, we're creating, in essence, an adventure a week, editing them. We have the whole structure of the campaign there. When we go to the cons, we're organizing our part of it. We're setting stuff up on Warhorn. We're communicating with the con folks. We're setting all that up, and all that takes time. If we want to do something else, I'd have to train myself on Roll20. You don't want to go in and just be the bozo that's showing up the first time and running stuff. Need some time on it so that you become somewhat proficient with it. by doing that, that's going to take time from something else. And we really, we want to keep our players happy first and foremost. So we're focused on creating that content. We do the other stuff when we get time in our lives, because we all have lives.
Yeah.
There's kids, there's jobs, there's business, there's family, there's life gets in the way in a myriad of ways. But let's see what else we got here.
Yeah, Blake.
Highest level.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go on.
Wow, lots of folks. This is going quick. I don't know if I can read this fast.
Yeah,
Blake wants to know if you have stuff journaled.
More elves in Keelan. That's
Oh yeah,
yes.
more elves everywhere. That was our backup topic today. So just in case. Yep.
I wasn't thinking.
Who's Pluffet is? Oh, I forget.
Gary is Peacemaster.
That's Gary.
Yes. Yep. And Blake Ryan Batman had a very good question here. Are the games journaled somewhere? That
No. One of the things that we wanted to do was to have some write-ups and stuff, but again, it's just a priority thing.
Yeah.
Creating content's more important than creating what happened during it for our players.
Yep.
We're nothing without our players. We can do all the. Nothing happens if we aren't putting people in seats and letting them do their thing.
Nebula wants to know how you get in on Greyhawk Reborn. Like, do you have to find an event nearby?
Yeah, we're mostly in the mid-Atlantic states, DC up to Scranton area, Harrisburg, Gettysburg, PA area. We are going to be at Origins this year, so that's a place. I'm sure hopefully we'll be back at Gen Con next year, and we'd love to spread out a little bit more, but
can you start in California chapter, please?
I would love to. We had some folks at various points in time. That we had a group in LA that wrote half dozen or so adventures. They had some really good stuff, but they were also playing Adventure League or other campaigns, and it was just easier for them to play something else as opposed to create. We had another group out in the Midwest that was interested at times, and it was kind of the same thing. Got a couple of adventures, but
Here. So Taco Turtle wants to know if you guys anyone's considered recording or streaming.
We've talked about that. Oh, I got to give a shout out. Looks like Dave Peterson's there, one of our authors, one of our original admins from back in the day. One of the four guys I sat around the table with when we decided to do this. Dave Peterson, Anthony Keller, and Ellen Davis. Give them a shout out here. Yes, we have talked about that. Again, it takes resources to do that. One of the resources is money, which is another thing we don't, have a whole lot of income, which is why we would love to distribute. Oh my God, if I'm going to say if, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say when WotC decides that Greyhawk can be released on DM's Guild. We've got a treasure trove of adventures that needs cleaned up and put out. We have story arcs. We could fill several hardbacks very quickly with adventure paths. But we've talked about that, but it takes money to do it, and we'd love to do it. In an ideal world, I'd love to be at a convention where we have a separate room set up that is all mic'd and all videoed and ready to go. And you kind of look around as we have 5 or 6 or 7 tables playing, and you look at those, and you're gamers after a while. We've been seeing the same folks for 5, 6 years now. And you go, there's our feature table for this slot. That's got the DM, that's got adventure. I know those folks. Let's bring them over to the special room and film them. Have them sign the waivers and do it and edit it, and do that every slot of the con. We think it'd be a wonderful thing to do. We have so much fun at our tables because we do so much improvising. We interact with the players and we make them part of the story. And we also realize that, especially at conventions, people are spending hundreds of dollars to come for a hotel room. They're buying their food. They're leaving their families for the weekend. They're spending a lot of money, and they're more valuable spare time to come out and play with us. They want to be entertained. We believe that Greyhawk Reborn is the game out there, the living campaign that understands that more than any other one. And we want to make sure that the people are around the tables having fun, having memorable moments that they're going to talk about later,
Yeah.
Laughing, and just having a great time. And
Right.
you know, and as well as family. We had the game day this past weekend, and there must have been, let's see, the O'Connors were there with their two kids. We had the Hunter family there. We had Tyson bring his daughter for her first game day experience.
Wow.
She was about 8 or 9. We must have had 4 or 5 families there, and that's another thing we pride ourselves on. You know, it's fun to sit there and see, you know, 2 generations of gamers
Yep.
playing and enjoying, and that's what we're about. We're about entertainment value. So.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
fantastic. You see, there's now a new generation Greyhawkers coming up that that weren't even born when we started gaming. And
Yep.
it's
Yep.
fantastic to see that. It's love it. Yep.
Yeah, when we started this, I'll be honest with you, I really thought, you know, it was about 5 years after the end of Living Greyhawk, and I really thought we'd get a lot of Living Greyhawk players. Keelan, Jeff, you know, the Mid Atlantic was a hotbed of play.
Yeah.
Lots of neat stuff going on. Lots of great stories being told. Lots of great gaming groups that were playing, and I really thought we'd get a lot of those players back. And it turns out we didn't get near as many as I expected. But we ended up pulling new players in. There was a lot of younger folks playing,
Yep.
you know, and folks that were D&D, just hit that 5e D&D boom that has been happening.
Yeah.
You know, this last game day, actually, we had some of our old timers coming back. Last couple of months, we've been seeing some of that, which is nice to see them too. But yeah, it's amazing how many new players are in, you know, 20, 30-year-old folks. And the other thing that we end up seeing a lot is folks that played when they were in college, played when they were in their 20s, and life got in the way. They got a job and they had a family and stuff, and they're coming back out at 45 and 50
Yep.
when they got, you know, kids are better and you know, are out
Yep.
of the house and they
Yep.
have some time,
Mm-hmm.
or they haven't been able to play to 4 or 5 years, but their kids are now 9 or 10, and
They
now
can bring them
I
in.
can take
And, yep.
exactly.
Yep.
So it's wonderful.
Yep.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here.
Bavix has another good question. Are you following the rules for Adventurers League?
No, we do not use anything from Adventures League. We are not affiliated with Adventures League in any way. There might be some things we use that they use. I'll be honest with you. I don't
that's
know.
fine.
I don't even look at Adventure League anymore. We recently, beginning of the year, we had a conversion. We did start using treasure points, and we did start using checkpoints after many discussions as admins and discussions, casual discussions with our players and our DMs. So we are using that, but you know, Adventure League rules, we don't really have seasons. We don't do that. We have story arcs, and you know, folks will write story arcs. We had
Right.
3 gentlemen. Mepicon is a con that happens twice a year. It happens April and it happens in November. We had a series of 3 story arcs involving the Dreadwood with 3 different authors. We tied them together. They told them over 3 cons. We had 3
Cool.
premieres at each con,
Yeah.
and it culminated in a wonderful interactive that everything kind of came together in a head. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So-
that's the type of thing we do.
Yeah. So when different authors want to claim the same NPC, how is that settled, or do they have to get along? Who gets the or do you have generic NPCs? I guess you must have. There's like the rulers and if some of the
Mhm.
villains, or how do you set that up? Is that the yeah?
I missed the first part of
Oh,
that.
sorry. Yeah, meaning when you have like master villains and some of the
Mhm.
NPCs that are kind of campaign, they span the whole campaign, so to speak. Do
Right.
you have like the plot coordinators and stuff? They kind of say that now that author can now you can have it in your story arc for a bit, or can they jump in between, or how does that is that coordinated?
Depends on the NPC. You know, we tend to think of our NPCs as being much more rounded, much more 3-dimensional than other ones. We like to give them goals. We like to have them have motives, so they're not just cardboard cutouts. So
Yeah.
they will, you know, it's just we have discussions about what's going on, who would be involved in that, who would be doing that, and you know, not all of our NPCs are bad guys, but yeah, they get used, and you know,
Yeah.
if you got a big bad guy at the end of a story arc and the idea is that you've got to defeat him. Well, then every table has a chance to defeat him, and we've had those.
Mm-hmm. And then if he's defeated in enough instances of running the game, then he's actually
Right.
defeated in the campaign, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you can write a story as an author,
Yeah.
and you can certainly, by choosing how you write it and how you frame things, tilt the players to a specific destination, if you will. We try to avoid that. If we have something that we expect the players to be involved in decision making, we try to make it as fair as possible, whether it's a 50-50 chance for good or bad, or 3 or 4 different choices about who becomes ruler of a province or something like that. We try to paint it as fair as we can so the players can have a fair impact.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
That's so much fun. I'm getting jealous. I want to run over there and play every weekend. That sounds
it's
awesome.
a great time, man.
Yep.
It's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yep.
I mean, I go through a lot of headaches as the lead admin, and it's, you get stressed out and you say, oh, how am I going to get all this stuff done? I should be doing this. I should be mowing the yard, whatever.
Yeah,
and then
but
you just sit down and you're running the table and you're playing, and
then, yeah.
you got
Then
it's
you have
just
other
so
more
rewarding.
interesting problems than yeah.
Yeah.
So
Let's
yeah.
see who else we have.
Yeah, see what we have more in chat. I was thinking about
Yeah.
what's more your long-term plans for if you look like the next 2, 3, 4 years. What's how do you want to see the Greyhawk Reborn project develop, so to speak?
Well, in an ideal world, Wizards would sit down and open up Greyhawk, and then we could do what we're doing, and also do a living campaign around it, because I think there's a lot of folks that like the idea of a living campaign as opposed to a home campaign. It's so much more flexible. You can do it in so many places. You don't have to, if 1 or 2 people don't show up, you're not dead. There's game stores screaming for content to play. I think I'm not tremendously familiar with what Wizards do, but I understand recently they changed. It's harder for stores to get content, or they're playing hot pay or hot.
Yeah, there was something that I've read a couple of weeks ago that was kind of sounded very alarming, but I haven't seen anything more on Ian World stuff, so I don't know really what happened with it. But it was something that I read, and a few people panicked on Facebook and stuff, and then I haven't heard anything since. But yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on out there. We're going to keep telling stories. That's what we do. We take the initiative and the interest that our new authors bring in, and our other authors come in with stories. And we got some stuff going on in Bissell. We are just starting we had our first adventure up in Ket premiere recently. So we're interested. We have some plots and some neat things that are going to be happening in Ket and up in that area, in the Bacloony lands, if you will. I don't have the documentation in front of me, but I believe at Origins we are offering 2 adventures based specifically on the Twin Cataclysms, one from each point of view, the Soul and the Bacloony. And that's going to, open up some opportunities up there to tell some stories with some conflict there. I'd love to do. I got a wonderful. We've been dealing with 6 years of this now, and we did with Greyhawk Reborn, and I wanted to be getting into the city of Greyhawk. It's time to start there. Like I said, we're holding off on that story arc depending on what else happens. But in terms of Warduke Press and being able to get some stuff out, I'd love to be able to get some content out. We actually approached Wizards. We contacted them and see if there was any way to license or create anything. I mean, people want to play living campaigns. People want to play in Greyhawk. It's the longest running campaign out there. If we could just get to the point where they would allow us to distribute 6 or 8 adventures a year and
Yeah.
the structure of a living campaign, something that we could hand to other folks for conventions
Yeah.
and say, hey, you could have this for your convention.
So any response or just
No,
crickets?
we're not interested in licensing the standard, which
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand.
hmm
But yeah, in an ideal world, that's what we would be able to do. We're looking at other things as Warduke Press to create some revenue. We've been doing this all with very limited revenue income. We go to cons and we're paying our own way to do what we're doing.
hmm
We're paying for our own food. We're paying for our own hotel rooms when we go to cons and things like that. We're doing it because we have a love of gaming. We have a love of Greyhawk, and ultimately we have stories to tell inside us that we want to get out and share with people. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
But man does not live on bread alone.
That's
No.
true.
So
Yep,
we
you
are.
need to.
That's part of the reason we
Yep.
created Warduke Press,
Yep.
and we are investigating things. As I mentioned to you folks earlier,
Yeah.
Patreon is something that is a
Yep.
possibility.
Yep.
Not sure it's legal because Greyhawk is a very, very important intellectual property of Wizards.
Yeah.
They've defended it many times in the past,
hmm
and I have no direct knowledge of anything, but you hear things, you read things on Reddit, you read things on NWorld, you read things in places, and it has the potential to be a minefield of intellectual property issues between whatever happened way back in the day with TSR and Gygax and all of that, and his wife, widow, as well as all of the various contracts and non-contracts that were in LG.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. If you look at it from a historical perspective to today, it's all over the place from waging war with their users to basically embracing everything. And now, from when I read the fan creation rules, I must say that they're very generous for what I do. They're very generous.
Yep.
So it's actually that they have at least opened up a model that you can actually create fan create content, as long as you give it
Yes.
away and you put the disclaimer on it, so to speak. And then they even mentioned that you can fund it using patrons, which is to me was kind of amazing that it's even mentioned in the fan creation rules. So that means that right now I've read them like 10 times, and I really try to be comply with them, and I hope that I comply with them in every way, shape, and form. But you never know. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't be sure. But so far, they seem to they don't. I haven't received any input. They even, when I was there, they kind of said, "Oh, it's awesome. It looks so great," and that's it. So
That's a pretty good thumbs up.
yeah, exactly. So at least I haven't heard any. Yeah. So if I continue to do what I do, I hope I'm in the clear, so to speak. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you are, because they're quite aware of what you're doing, and even if you're infringing, they don't care. Creating adventures, which is something Wizards, D&D is about.
Mm-hmm.
That's another story.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, might be. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see what else we got.
Yeah, we have to see what more kind of cool. Now we have done a whole hour, and we've just started to touch the topics here. So let's me now.
Highest level character is 17.
That's pretty
give you
high.
that, Audrico. APL ranges for adventures, it varies. I will be honest with you. We have had some that the story very easily fit into 1 to 17 or 1 to 17 range.
That's like a whole long. Wow.
If the story fits it, we will do that with our interactive, so everybody gets a chance to play. Oftentimes, sometimes they're 1 to 4, or they're tied to tiers. Sometimes the story doesn't really fit like 1 or 2, so it becomes 3 to 8.
Yeah.
It's really what the story tells you.
I think the Tomb of Horrors could be 1 to 17. I mean,
it doesn't matter. You can
doesn't matter.
Going in there.
Yeah, you could be the toughest gang ever, and you can still get screwed. So but the modules, they span from the whole level, from first level to 20th or something.
Right.
We haven't got to 20 yet. We're hitting 17. We advance pretty quickly, especially using the checkpoint system now. 1 adventure gets you to 2, 1 adventure gets you to 3, 2 adventures get you to 4. Then it's like 3 adventures that'll get you
Oh,
to
it's
the
like
next
point
levels.
buy. So when you need to get to the really high levels, you
Yeah,
need to run like 6 adventures that get you from
yeah,
17 to
yeah.
18 or something like
Yeah,
that. Or yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
like you
Hmm.
want to. To
Yeah.
me, my thought is if I got characters there with all my toys, I want to play them as long as possible. So why do I want to just play them three
Yeah.
adventures
Hmm.
between levels when I can
Yeah.
play them for
Hmm.
more? That to me would be the fun.
Yeah. And in
So we're
fifth,
just getting there.
yeah. And in fifth edition, the sweet spot is kind of wide too. The game functions
Yeah.
well high up into high level. Not, yeah. So
Yep. It
okay.
still slows down.
Hmm.
Combat slowed
Oh
down,
yeah,
and
but that's inevitable when you have bigger
yeah.
numbers and people have more cool stuff to do and more
Yep.
more abilities and stuff. And especially spellcasters, I guess they get a repertoire that is way bigger.
Yeah. And 5e is a. I was really concerned when I heard about 5e, and 3e came, and then 3.5 came out, and then 4e was there, and then we had essentials, and then there's 5e, and it's just like, here we go. I played 1e for what, 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
You played 2e for, I don't know, about the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, wow, it sounded like they were just jamming all the parts of the different versions of the game together, and you really get worried if you can really make something that smushed up work.
Yeah.
Right.
I give them credit. It does. They've taken the best parts of every version of the game, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and they've created a game that is recognizable as D&D, which 4E was not. You can pick it up, I think, at any version that you've played, and you can walk into it,
Mm-hmm.
and the
And
game is understandable.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
D&D, and you can
definitely.
understand
Yep.
what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I give them credit. It is a
Yep.
wonderful game.
Mm-hmm.
I
They're
recently ran Ghost Tower of Inverness, AD&D module, and I converted it on the fly in 5th edition rules, and it was easy as pie.
Yeah, I give them credit.
Yeah.
And I also, although I'm sitting here as an admin of GHR saying I wish Greyhawk was out there, I do applaud their marketing speed, if you will. I remember the days of 3E and 3.5 and LG where it was the Book of the Month Club, if not more, and you kind of had to have them. I applaud them for focusing on story and, not just putting out crunch book after crunch book. And I think that makes for a much balanced game that is going to last a lot longer and have a longer play span until we get to 6th edition. So, I mean, I think they're doing a lot of very good things. The only thing they need to do is let us release some Greyhawk content soon for the hundreds of thousands of players that love Greyhawk out there in the world.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Wizards, come on, talk to me.
Yep. Yeah, there is a market for it, definitely.
Oh,
So,
my,
yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's what I heard happened with LG. I mean, I have no idea where there's any truth to the story or not. You hear different things from different people, and you just piece things together over the years when you talk to people in the industry. And I'd always heard that, they had the Living City, and that kind of grew out of the RPG, and that went well. So they were releasing 3.5 or 3E. They said, well, we want to do a living style campaign with that, and they didn't want to do anything with their baby of Forgotten Realms. So it was like, well, let's throw Greyhawk in there, because then if it fails, who cares anyway? Nobody cares about Greyhawk. And then it became this huge success. Why? Because it was Greyhawk. That's what I heard happened. So I don't know whether there's any truth to that, but certainly Living Greyhawk proved that
Yeah.
there are a lot of folks out there clamoring for Greyhawk content. So, anyway.
But that's very interesting to see, and they ran with it, but then you didn't get a chance again, so to speak. Forgotten Realms
No.
became the big baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, well, from my understanding with 5e early on, the plan was to have everything released pretty early.
You mean the different
Greyhawk and the different right.
settings and stuff. Yeah.
Right. That changed pretty early on in the process.
Uh-huh.
When we started running some stuff at one of the cons, had somebody come up who publishes some of his own stuff. Saw what we were doing in Greyhawk, saw what we were doing and really, I think, saw an opportunity of here's some devoted folks creating some content that could be usable to my company, to my organization. And I had an NDA from Wizards of the Coast by the end of that weekend in my email box, with the understanding that at that point it was going to be, all this stuff was going to be out early. And then it stopped at one point. The communication stopped to this gentleman, and it changed, which is probably good, because then we'd be looking at 7th edition by now, probably. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's interesting times, and also love the fact that now we have several big game companies that are viable, and the whole gaming community is now mainstream, meaning it's D&D and our role-playing games in general are played everywhere and talked about in general media in a way, and all of a sudden we have a hobby that is cool, generally cool, and I just I walked in like a couple of weeks ago. I had my D&D official D&D T-shirt, and I walked into the REI, one of the hiking equipment stores and sport goods and stuff, and I walked around, and then one of the salespeople said, "Oh, I love your T-shirt. That's so cool. I played last night," and yeah, that was so cool. And then we talked half an hour about D&D, and then some supervisor came back around the corner and looked at what the hell he was talking about. So then he had to go back to work. But it was things like that. You can just walk around and someone from just said, "Oh, that's so cool," and even my doctor said, "Oh, I saw your maps and I play D&D, and it's so funny." So so that was so fun. So we had like 10 minutes. Oh, but now we need to talk about you. So that was fun too. So that was like and I showed my business card and stuff, and he said that, "Is that you?" Because I played D&D. He was a Forgotten Realms fan, but he so he looked at my map and was like, "Oh, I played last night. This is so cool." So so now it's everywhere.
Yeah, we're we're almost wandering around smack dab in the middle of popular culture for the last, honestly, since 5e came out. There was a real good marketing push with that, and remember the article in Forbes magazine and things like that, and we're in the middle of pop culture now.
Isn't that amazing? After 40 years of after 40 years of playing in literally down in the dungeon, so to speak, down in the basement, and
I would have been in my 20s again and playing at this time.
Well, it's been everywhere. It's on Big Bang, Stranger Things. It's out there. Target or Walmart or somebody is selling D&D shirts, and movie coming out. Hopefully a good movie this time.
That's one of the what's are your odds? How many percentage that will actually be a good movie, or do you think that we'll screw it up this time as well?
Let's wait until we see who the cast is and who's writing it and who's directing.
Not even seeing the cast, I know it's going to be better, because when the other D&D movies first came out, there was no Game of Thrones.
That's true. The competition is way better, much higher now. Yeah, that's true. We have Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and stuff like that. So there's now real fantasy. Yeah, that's true. But what surprised me, now this is an interesting tangent. So one of the interesting things that to me is that they always try to and talk about it as a D&D movie. To me, it seems to be weird to base a movie from a rule system, base it on the rule system. To me. That seems to be completely the wrong way of doing it. I would love to see a Drizzt Do'Urden movie or a Dragonlance TV series, or movies are about the stories, not about the rule system.
And now that you bring that up, when you call the movie Dungeons and Dragons, then instantly that means that movie has to have Dungeons and Dragons in it, or people will be turned off. Like, where's the Dungeons? Where's the Dragons at? This is about an elf with two swords.
Yeah,
I've always thought we've never had a really good D&D movie yet. The first one was like okay, and there was things you recognize as being. There's so many other fantasy genre movies out there. Which one do you folks think caught D&D the best? If you had to pick one that was like, oh, this is the most D&D like movie. Is there anything that stands out for you?
Well, Conan. I think the Conan movies are, in my opinion, very D&D-ish.
Chatters, feel free to jump in on this one if you got any ideas.
The one, my favorite one growing up, it was always Dragon Slayer.
Yep,
Hmm.
that one is that's a good one too. Yep, yep, that's a good one. But for yeah, Dragon Slayer
Willow,
and Conan were the ones for me that kind of
fit
tied
with Willow.
into to. But it might also been because that's the heyday when we really started playing like
Yeah.
crazy.
I
So
will
so
fight anyone who says
Beast
they hate Willow.
yeah, Beastmaster was another one that I think was kind of close
Yeah.
Beastmaster?
to yeah, that was another one that
Yeah.
was very kind of influential. And also Legend.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the movie in itself, but the master villain, the demon or
Mm-hmm.
devil or whatever in it, the
Hawk.
fiend in it. Yeah.
Do you
Lady
two
Hawk
remember
was
Hawk the Slayer? Hawk the Slayer, either of you? Bavix brought one of
I,
my
no.
yep.
hidden favorites.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Because that one has, I think, an elf and a dwarf and a human. You know, it's like
Yeah.
your standard
Yeah.
D&D.
And another one for me was Lady Hawk. Is not
Lady Hawk was
yeah, that
great.
was
Yep.
I
You
just
brought her.
loved it because the environment and the shape changing and so on. It was a little bit too much love story for being D&D, I guess, but it was kind of yeah, I kind of liked it for
Ooh,
many
this is
different
just
ones.
bringing back memories because
Yeah,
back in the late 80s, early 90s, I worked at a movie theater here in my town, a really old movie theater. And when I first worked there, there was all these old posters of all these movies that I liked, cult movies like Sword and the Sorcerer and stuff like that. I'm
Hmm.
sure Lady Hawk was there and Beastmaster. I should have stole every one of them posters because I regret it to this day. I should have stole them all.
See, one of the things I've always thought about D&D movies is
Crawl.
there hasn't been one that has caught D&D. When I think of D&D, I think of the group dynamics. And all these movies we're mentioning, other than Lord of the Rings, are really focused on an individual.
yeah,
You know, when I sit and think of a D&D movie, and it's not the genre, but I sit and I think of things like um, Ocean's 11, where
Mm.
you have a group dynamic,
mm-hmm,
The Expendables.
yeah, yeah,
Going back to some of
mm-hmm,
the World
yeah,
War II movies,
yeah.
where you know
Mm-hmm.
you needed a group of people.
That the
Uh,
Band of
what,
Brothers
what,
kind of or
right,
Saving Private Ryan is another one that going on an
right,
adventure like that. Yep.
A group
right.
objective.
One of the ones I thought that got kind of closest to a D&D movie, and it has nothing to do with D&D whatever, but if you remember Schwarzenegger, Running Man,
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one,
Well,
but
you
I've
know, in
heard about
terms
it. Yeah.
of just
okay.
Yeah.
as a group,
Surviving.
you know, they've never really caught, even most of these fantasy movies, that group dynamic of a group of people getting together who cannot solve the problem individually, but working together can
Yeah.
overcome the
Yeah.
obstacles.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
that's interesting because there you open up that you can actually have a movie about the game itself
Mhm.
rather than the story you're telling in it, so to speak. But that's true. I always try to if I would be doing it, I would have avoided most of the rules and just gone for presenting the
Yep.
story arcs in Dragonlance or the Dristward and thing or
Ooh,
in I would
adventure.
take one of the stories in Greyhawk
Definitely.
and run with it, so to speak, and simply created a fantasy movie and ignored. Maybe I would have
Hmm.
an occasional spell or something like that. That will be kind of cool that you can name, so to speak. Maybe that will be it. And but on the other hand, that's a great way to tie into the game
Hmm.
the philosophy of the game and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Draco, right? The Avenger movies, absolutely.
20
That's
level
kind of it's
characters are
almost
heroes.
yeah. I mean, that's almost like four groups of characters all thrown together. But Mission Impossible is a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those.
Taco Turtle, Critical Role. I'll be honest with you. I don't. This is probably blasphemous, but I don't watch any of those type of things. It's one of
I
those
think
things I
there's a
just don't
certain
have a lot of
demographic.
time. I think it's my age, and it's a matter of okay, do I work on something in the house? Do I spend a little time golfing? Do I work on something for GHR, or do I spend an hour watching this? And it just
Yeah.
it's not a priority.
They
It's
are
sad
big,
because I know
big,
there's a lot of neat stuff out there.
popular.
Yeah, for me, I think I wouldn't watch any of that if it weren't
No.
for some parts when I'm sitting doing my maps, especially if I do Photoshop work. If all I sit and doing is touching up textures and stuff all day, then it's perfect to watch something like that because it's keeps me tied into fantasy and stuff like it. So depending on what I do, if I try to solve a programming problem in 3D, then I don't watch any of it. That's just music, whatever. But if I'm doing certain types of work that are tedious and not, and just simple and tedious and you just need to be done, then it's perfect to watch some live
Yeah.
play or two guys talking about D&D or something like that. That's kind of
As
yeah.
an artist, the thing I'm most impressed with Critical Role is how it's inspired a lot of fan art.
Mm-hmm.
My Twitter feed is flooded with Critical Role fan art all the time. I
Yep.
don't even watch Critical Role,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just astounded by all the character,
Yeah,
people out
and
there.
just look at Shane that started this channel that we're on, and his games. They are simply amazing just because he is a showman and he kind of ties the stories together and he gets new players in it, and the players can get a feel for the setting, a feel for the game and stuff, and see how it can be done by someone who get a lot of thought into it and is very routine and run the games. So in many ways that could be a fantastic way of learning the game without having to sit down at a table and expose your social
Mm-hmm.
anxieties or whatever it is to others, and you can kind of ease your way into a game that way. And so yeah, so I think that has done Twitch and similar media has done amazing things for the
Mm.
popularity, because that's the way to if you want to sit and see a group play around a real gaming table. Is not It's better to, when you see an online game being run, you can actually see the chat, you can see the die rolls, you can see
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff happening on the screen. So who knew
right.
that role-playing game could be an awesome spectator sport, so to speak? That's
I had no
I
idea.
I never had an idea, because even
I
I
think they
have sit
wanted
and
it.
watched other people play the game,
Yeah,
and it's kind
they
of
just didn't have
boring.
the technology for it.
Yeah,
Back.
and yeah, so computers and modern technology have done wonders for that, and you can present it graphically and visually and audio, and you can bring in music and audio effects and
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of cool things in it. And you can also bring in the audience. They can bet money and pledge things and yell and scream and comment, and so it's kind of, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, to show you my my technical prowess here, I
Yeah.
finally decided to type something into the chat. So I
Oh,
finally joined Twitch,
oh,
uh,
awesome. That's
signed
great.
in.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
I was just
Mm-hmm.
watching evidently earlier. So
Yep. And if
yeah,
if you have
welcome to
a
the
app,
noob.
yep, that's great. So yep, and actually, at first I wasn't that into Twitch, but about a year ago I started watching Shane, and then all of a sudden, and I met him at Gen Con and stuff, and now I'm running a few things on my own Twitch channel, and especially Legends and Lore, and you get into to getting to set up the technology, and it's not that difficult.
Yeah,
Anyone
There's
can do it.
still you got to have a certain internet.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. You have to have a
Right.
computer that is
Yeah.
reasonably fast and
Like
stuff.
I
Yeah.
don't have it.
Yeah. But the good thing
Yeah.
is that only one person needs to do it, and the other ones can kind of connect, and,
Yeah.
and you can do it. So it's a wonderful way. And now almost all of my gaming are done online. Almost, yeah, that's almost exclusively online, because one of the benefits of it, I can work on my maps while I'm gaming. And so that's kind of it's a great way of keeping me at the computer, keep me doing what I'm supposed to do. So yeah.
What's the name of your Twitch channel?
Oh, it's that's Twitch TV's / Anna B Meyer. No, hang on a second. I can get it up, and I'll get a new window and get my
Hmm.
channel and post it in there. So yeah. So I
yeah.
can.
Online gaming is something that like I said, we want to investigate. Um, I could again, I'm that dreamer, but I could see a whole living campaign based on nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but online gaming. I mean,
Yep.
what an opportunity!
Mm-hmm.
You pull people around and the opportunity to be able to, I don't want to say perfect that adventure, but to run it over and over, become so familiar with it as a DM and running it for different folks.
Yeah.
Um, the the play, the amount of play for the amount of work ratio would be just so wonderful
Hmm.
because you'd be able to share it with so many folks.
Yep. And yeah, so but before we continue on this, Mavix has a wonderful question.
Yep.
If you
He
had the
has the best questions.
yeah, yeah, super. Yeah, you can read it, Dave, and see there. So yeah.
Oh, I'd want to go back and invoke devastation.
Oh, you want to
Rain
go
of
that
colorless
far?
fire, twin cataclysms. I,
Oh, you want to go all
I
the way back there? That's
that
oh,
would
that's
be
Okay.
interesting.
such a wonderful story to explore in a
Hmm.
long-term campaign where
Wow.
two powers that are just so much more advanced than anything that is there 1,000 years later.
Hmm.
What happened to them? What caused
Oh,
that? Could it
that
have
is
been
fantastic.
stopped?
Yeah. But what if you
Um,
stop it? Then that will be kind of yeah. Hmm.
well, it's new canon for where you're going.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you believe in string theory and you believe
Yeah,
in
that's
some
true.
of
You
this other stuff that's out there.
multiverse with yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Every decision you make is
Yeah.
it's a binary
Oh.
universe. Every decision you make
Oh,
creates a new universe.
that's kind of cool. Then you can invent high level magic where you can actually step between them or whatever. So yep, there's a
Yeah,
fantasy world you can. Oh, this. Oh, this is so cool. Yep.
yeah. I mean, that's probably the definite one.
Hmm. Yeah.
There are plenty of other neat places in Greyhawk. I've been
Yeah.
there 40 years, and there's
Yeah.
places I haven't been yet. I
Yeah.
still want to go on my
Yeah.
fantasy
And one,
vacations.
yeah. One of the things I would, if I want to go back in history, I want to have a look at the Vecna Empire, the Empire of Vecna.
Yeah,
That's one of the ones that I want to. I would
I was
love
about
to.
to say,
Mhm.
yeah, the Vecna, if there was no migrations, Vecna's empire, wouldn't that have more room to grow?
Yeah, for me, one of the interesting things is Vecna versus the elves, meaning because Vecna
Hmm.
was a large part of the area where Selene and Elvendom still runs strong, at least the strongest part in the Flannies were the elves. So they must have got into conflict. That is something I would have loved to tie in, think about, and making a campaign around the elves versus Vecna, so to speak, and the,
Ancient Q land.
yeah,
is
exactly,
is
something
that
like yeah.
is that when the elves started though becoming isolationists
That might have
because they
been,
didn't want to
yeah,
get involved? I don't know.
exactly. That might have been, yeah, whatever, or what actually stopped Vecna from was it the was the elves
Not
did
sure.
something, or was it the migrations that did it, or yeah, I don't know,
I
but
don't
that
know.
was something I would love to look have a
Yeah,
close look at the Vecna, and that will be the IUs of its day, so to speak,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
master villain in its time, and run campaigns with it. That's yeah something I would be really
Could, could,
interested in.
could you imagine a living campaign going through and having a little time travel adventure where you go
Yeah.
back and at the
Hmm.
end of it you get a chance to, gee, this is baby Uz. Do I take him out?
That's true.
Hmm.
Yes, you can go in there and when they placed him up there at that little lord up in the north somewhere, if you gone and slain that youngster or whatever age he was back in the day up there, that would have been yeah,
Yep.
really interesting. Yeah.
Shane's
Uh,
Greyhawk, his own campaign. I'm forgetting which one it was, but uh, they did a time travel segment to the Forgotten City and all that. It was
Yes.
kind of
Yep.
interesting. I caught bits of it.
Yep. Yep.
yep. Draco, let me catch a couple of your questions here. We use all kinds of maps, whatever we can find. Sometimes we pull things from the web that are particular to what we're doing. We use mostly Anna's because I mean, why wouldn't you when you can? And she's been kind enough to allow us.
Oh yes,
And of
and
course,
we
it's
should
Draven.
look into making a Greyhawk Reborn
Oh,
version of the map, so to speak. That's something we could, just like I did for Jay Lord Gazumba, Jay Scott's campaign I
Yep.
adopted. So that's something we should look into for next year and see if we can make a Greyhawk
Possibility.
Reborn version of
Well, we
it.
got some things that are different in Keelan
Yeah.
than the canon map
Yep.
because of
That
LG and stuff.
yeah, that's what I mean.
So,
We
yeah,
need to whatever needs to be adjusted, so to speak, to make it an official, and then make an update every couple of years or something
yep,
when your plot.
that'd be
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep, GH Mards are fairly bare bones, our adventures. And again, it's you need enough so you can run them consistently and make sure you don't forget anything. And then you just need enough that the editor, the the people vetting them, we usually have a set or two of eyes go over them before they go out excuse me, looking for game balance, looking for appropriateness. So you need to have enough details there. When we are ready to get them published, I started just to say an exercise. I started taking a 3-part story arc and putting it into a format and starting to add some stuff into it. It got a bit lengthier as you're preparing it to be run by other folks. So that is true. We're fairly bare bones now.
Yeah,
Let's see what other questions.
Gary had a good comment. The recent bound of elven isolationism is due to the hateful wars. Ah, that's a very good point. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of. Well, we wanted to talk about elves. This is sort of on.
Yeah. On the
Ah.
that was our plan B, so to speak.
Our
If you
backup
couldn't make
topic.
it, then yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nahili, we're advancing on Vecna. Yep. Yep. That's canon I use. I do love Cannon Fire. There's so much good stuff I find on Cannon Fire.
So you use the Sea Princes a lot, right?
Yeah, it's one of the areas we started in.
Because my home campaign uses that a lot as well. And so I'm always interested for any unique stuff that you.
Well, we had started. Our gentleman working on that was Anthony Keller, and
met him.
He started with a small town called Wall Harbor, which is nowhere on any map, I'm sure. South along the coast, just south of the south and west, south and east of the Kampf Mountains, I believe, the hills down there.
Hokar.
South of Hokar, it's along the coast.
Right.
And a small town called Salton, which there was a salt mine there, and just kind of developed it from there. We just went into, some other story arcs there. The Ullmen were there. The Brotherhood were still influencing things. Monmorg was still being held by the Brotherhood, which we've now in GHR it has been freed.
Good.
And we got into Berghoff. Jay Stupinski wrote some great articles for that. Our adventures that we got up in there and created an NPC that everybody seemed to love, or Duchess Irma. That's the fun thing. You want to have people, you want to have NPCs people love, and you want to have ones they love to hate.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of the Greyhawk War, what Greyhawk Wars did to the Hold. I think that area is the best setting for any kind of pirate sea-based campaign. And it just takes all the wind out of the sails, figuratively.
The Regulators. Yes, the Regulators was a gaming group that I was lucky enough that just from LG, as various gaming groups joined. They played together regularly. They went to cons. They traveled to other regions. The folks that were Regulators were kind enough to allow me to be the prime minister.
Nice.
I don't know why. We had various ministers. Started at a game day way back. Actually, not a game day. I'm sorry. It was a Mepicon. 5 of us, 4 of us rode up in a van. We left like 4 in the morning. We got back like 4 in the morning to a Mepicon game day, or a Saturday. One of our first LG experiences. We got there and we were all like second level, and we're playing. It was a Keelan mod from a year 1. It was Evil in the Woods. It was a 2-round mod. Mike Schley mod, who is our lawyer. He was our lawyer on retainer now. And it ended up being a 13-hour mod. And the big thing about it was we had a guy there that was 3rd or 4th level. He was a rogue. He did nothing. Every time combats came up, every time things came up, he would run away and hide. And on the way back, driving through the fog, it was foggy as hell that night. I hope I can swear on here. It was just terrible. But one of the things that the 4 of us in the car ride back was, that was terrible. We never want to be that gamer. So we said, well, we're going to make that pledge. And we talked about things like phrases like "with your shielder on it," no man left behind, and things like that. And we just said, we're going to be those guys that are not going to be like that at a con. And it kind of grew. It was, it was Drexel who's here. Tony Antonich was one of those guys. Jeff Fernandez was one of those guys. Two guys that I've been gaming with since summer of 1980, playing Greyhawk with those guys. It was Andy Jensen, it was Luke Wilson, it was Ninja Sam's, and it was Brian Slaughterhoff. We kind of got together, and we had that mentality. And we're also just, we entertain ourselves and we entertain each other. We're trying to make each other laugh. So we had a lot of fun while we were doing that. And it just kind of grew. People eventually wanted to play with us. They wanted to be a part of our group because of what we did in that mono. Because, you play at cons, you do run into that guy at the table once in a while. If you were sitting with a regulator, I'll represent here. If you were sitting with a regulator, that would not happen. And you knew that you were going to have a good time. We went to big shows at times. I remember we went to a Winter Fantasy and we'd go to shows and, the authors would come up and tap the DM's shoulder as they were starting to go, I'll take this table. We went up to Ket one weekend to level our characters out, and it was kind of like that. I think we had a reputation of being entertaining and being fun and being fair and just having a good time. And that's what gaming's about. So that was the regulators.
Cool.
That's the short story.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't do what they were supposed to. Somebody was a bad gamer, and we just said, we want to surround ourselves with people who are good gamers that have fun. And we became those guys. So.
Oh, that's
yep,
awesome.
Tony. Yep, Drexel. Great times.
Yeah, we have about half an hour left, so let's. I'll ask Mike real quick. What's anything you want to plug or anything you up to at the moment that should go on the show here? Yeah.
If you go to my blog at Grayhawkery, I got a new mini map up there that I did of Wyestal Lake. I don't know. I just picked some little part of the map. I look at the map. I'm like, I'm gonna zoom in on this spot. Then I draw something fancy. Beyond that, I still haven't finished the article I promised last week, but maybe I'll get motivated finishing it. And then the last thing, a couple other things I wanted to mention real quick on In World. There's an article on there written by James Ward that you might want to read, talking about the good old days. And on May 17th, Wizards of the Coast has got something called The Descent. They're going to announce their next big hardback storyline.
Oh.
So keep an eye out for that.
That sounds interesting.
I'll put all my money in my bank account that it won't be about Greyhawk.
That I'm pretty sure about too. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Judging from the artwork on to advertise it, looks like it's going to have something to do with the Blood War, like angels and demons.
That sounds very interesting because then it's at least useful for a Greyhawk campaign too. Definitely
could be useful for anything, but I think they're definitely edging towards doing planar stuff now. There's
that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of right now stuck in Kobold Land in with working with a huge project for Kobold Press and another one for Gryffindor Games. I don't know when that will be something that could be announced or anything. I don't know, so we'll see. The Gryffindor Games project will be fairly soon, something that I will show on my Twitch channel in a map live stream that I will do. Then because I'm going to I did one last Tuesday, not this week, but the previous week I did a map live stream on Twitch, and this week I had one just for my top patrons, and on Tuesday I'm going to have another public one on Twitch, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and the thing that I will do then is that I will start working on. Last time I did I worked on Lendor Isles and put some rivers and stuff in there, and World Machine and boring 3D work. This time I'm actually going to figure out the style for because when I started doing my map, I actually did it in small installment, like letter-sized pieces, and released them one after the other. And that was a format that people always kept saying to me, I need to bring that back. And so now I'm going to chop up the map into a number of pieces. Instead of letter or A4, it will be A3 or like 11 by 17. So it will be that will, so I simply have figured out that I need roughly the layout of where each page is supposed to be. What I will do on Tuesday is that I will figure out what each page should look like, what the elements should be. There should be a range bar, there should be some sort of mini map and stuff like that. And once that is figured out, then it's fairly easy. Then it will be more like a assembly line process. I have all the masks ready, I have all the export settings ready, and so on. So I can just simply create one at a time. So hopefully I can create at least a page every other day or so. And so you will maybe take a month or so to create every page of it, so to speak. So
You
it's
can
to
do it.
set the standard for it, and then have the an 11 by 17 stack PDF or stack of images that anyone can print out on an 11 by 17 if they want to, or just use the PDF, and they will be so that will be one of the things that I will set up the standards for. And so that's something, because now I need to have bite-sized things that I can work on in between when I get stuck and fed up with what I normally do. So again, I'm so sorry to my patrons that right now I need to fix. So up until June, I'm pretty much working as much as possible on getting those two big commission stuff out of my calendar, so to speak. And then during the summer, I have a few small things to do, but then it's when Greyhawk is starting to come back big time. And then this fall, I've basically set aside probably about 4 months that I'm going to work on nothing but Greyhawk. So that's that's so basically this fall is going to be for my patrons, and then hopefully that some of that can come out. There will be, like last December, there was a whole glut of stuff with the new 2019 edition came out this winter and stuff. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm working on a little bit. So I need some bite-sized things that I can do an hour now and then, and so on. So it's kind of, that's the sad part with a lot of these projects that are large, huge, and then they come out every 8-9 months, and some of them are like 2-3 years. But we have, but Lindor Isles are almost ready for texturing and stuff. So
And
the actual
Drexel's new to your mapping thing. What
oh
do you
yeah,
use?
the software I'm using, I work in 3D. Most of it is I work from basic in 3D, so I actually model the terrain in 3D, and then I render that and export out the shadow maps and the shading, the texture and stuff, and then I
Is it
touch
like
that up in
Photoshop
Photoshop
or
and stuff.
what?
Sorry?
Is it like Photoshop or what?
Well,
No.
the 3D is actually something that you can work in a 3D model, so to speak. So I have special software that creates the 3D terrain. And then
Uh-huh.
after that, I take the textures and stuff into Photoshop, and I touch them up and stuff. And then I can take a top-down view or an isometric view, and I can use the data in many different ways. The current version of the Flannies map that is now 20 years old, in the making, so to speak. I finished it like 6-7 years ago, I think it is now, and I started it 20 years ago, and then I keep been updating it since, and revised it and stuff. That is done using really old 3D tools that we'll call Bryce, that came out in the
Right.
90s, and that was so primitive that's nothing compared to today's standards. And
Classic.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so that was really, but if you're interested in what I do map wise, then you should definitely watch my Twitch streams when I do map live streams. Then it's the opposite. Here we talk about Greyhawk, and then I put in like 10% or 5% about my maps. Then the my channel, when we do live stream, it's map streams, it's the other way around. Maps are the 90%, and then because they're about Greyhawk most often, there's a little bit of Greyhawk in there too, because the map is actually from somewhere like Lendor Isles, where the what we talked about last time, and how 3D works. And this time it will be, next week it will be some Illustrator, there will be some Photoshop, and some symbols and stuff like that. And then I will do some texturing work, and then probably back to 3D again when texturing the Lendor Isles and stuff. So yep.
Nice.
My map is not commercially available. It's actually available for download for free. So I'm going to post the links.
Unless Drexel means the software. Is the
Oh,
software?
the software, the World Machine. Hang on a second. I can show you. The World Machine is the basic. I use a whole bunch of other stuff, but the software is you can get it here, and it's a free
Yeah, that's
type
the
of,
key.
yeah. There is a free version of it too, where you can do basic stuff with it, and it's actually
And a
you
good
can learn,
machine.
use it. It doesn't cost a penny. And I'm also can also tell about a software that is the new one that I'm going to use. That is coming out, and I'm really going to probably put. That's the it's called Gaia, and that's an up and coming tool that is really super cool. And that one is also, there is also a free version of it that you can start using and so on. And I will, both on my Patreon and on my Twitch stream, I will talk a lot about the technology behind it, and know how to do it and how I go about doing it and stuff like that. So yep.
Huh.
So that is, yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Drexel. That, yeah, thank you. That's awesome. So yep. So that's the thing. And now I'm going to plug my Patreon for 2 minutes or 1 minute. And so the Patreon I'm running is basically to fund the time for me to sit and do Greyhawk maps, and then I give away all the maps. So what my patrons get is that there's like 3 tiers of patron membership, and eventually I will actually bring it down to 2 tiers. So there will be a basic tier that you will then, if you want to support me making maps and you want to have the results quicker while I'm doing it, and you want to tell me what to do, that's then you take the low tier level. And then the high tier are for the ones that want to make maps like me as well. So then you get extra things like you get a chance, special live streams where but they're not published on Twitch, that we can discuss things. You get my source files while I'm working, and all that stuff, so to speak. My top tier patrons, they have the Lend or Isles and all that while I'm working on it, so they can actually go in and make their own versions of it and so on. And then when the project is released, like right now, you can go to my website and you can actually download the Illustrator file that I'm using to work on. So you can download that and make your own version of it. It doesn't cost a penny. And all my maps, Greyhawk maps, are released under Creative Commons by NCSA, which means that you are allowed to print them, share them, alter them, and all that, so to speak. You don't have to ask me for permission to do that. You have the right to do it. The only thing you need to do is that you need to credit me for meaning keep my name on the map, and you also can't sell it. You have to give your version of the map away for free as well. You have to keep the Creative Commons license, the same one I use for my map, on your version of the work. But you can take my source file, make your own version of the map, and spread it like wildfire. That's perfectly. You have my permission to do it. You can print it. You're not allowed to sell the prints, but you can print and even give away the prints if you want to pay for it. Or you can print one big one and hang on your wall. That's perfectly legal to do that for you. So they are sourced under Creative Commons because I want my maps
You've done the
to be
research.
used. Yeah, to be used for other people's games. So you can, if you run a website where you present your games for your game group, or you use World Anvil or Realmworks or some other software like that, you can put my maps in there. You can put them on your website and stuff. So that's part of the license to do that. Yep. So that was the short little plug for my Patreon, so to speak. So hang on a second. I should probably put a link to my Patreon whilst I'm.
There you go.
Yep.
Yep.
So here we go. So that's the link to my Patreon, and then I'll put a link to my website too. You can either reach it under. Here is the link that you can reach it either under ghmaps.net or annabmeyer.com. It's the same website. It's just that. So there you can reach it. And there's an online version of the map. You can find all the downloadable versions of the map, including the Illustrator file that I'm using, and there's some other cool things to find, like handout versions of the map and stuff like that. So yep. So now we have about 10 minutes. Let's go
10
through, see
minutes.
if we have missed anything in chat or anything that way. And
Well,
yeah.
Dave, I was going to say Dave could have some maybe last parting stuff.
Yeah, I have
Thanks
one
for
more
having
thing.
me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're so
Oh,
welcome. I have one more thing that we need to plug for today, and that is that our friend Carlos Leising at
mhm.
Castle Entertainment, he has a charity game coming up this Saturday, and that's something you should definitely.
It's going to be streamed.
Yep. And it's going to be streamed at at his Twitch channel. Let's see. That was maybe not the. Oh, that was the Facebook thingy. So I should probably skip that one. It's I should open it and then we do it. I'm sorry, that one was.
Is Greyhawk Reborn going to
but
Game
here's
Hole
the
Con?
thing. Oh, you'll hit Rick's.
No, we are hoping to some point to get out there. I would love to get to Gary Con. Boy, if there is a con that is our target audience, it is Gary Con. It
Yeah.
is just
I've
so
gravitated from Gen Con to Gary.
yeah. It's on our vision. It's going to be hard to get there.
Yeah.
Unless some folks in the Midwest decide to create a splinter cell of Greyhawk
Yeah.
Reborn out there. So
Well, I know Carlos was running some Greyhawk AD&D stuff at Gary Con, but
Yep.
beyond that, there was a few other people running Greyhawk stuff. I think
Yep.
Alan Grow was, but if Greyhawk Reborn came in there, that would instantly like double the Greyhawk presence there.
Yeah, we'd love to get other places. It just becomes part of it is a finance thing, being able to get there. Part of it is also, being able to get off of work for that extended period of time. And,
March is a weird month.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd love to get there. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd, Wizards would allow us to publish some stuff for them, and we would be able to have a few more resources to be able to do stuff like that. And then we'd be able to not have to rely upon our wonderful author DMs to DM everything. Then we could, have folks who are showing up there DM for us and train them, if you will, mentor them in the what we call GHRing a mod, basically, because we do run them differently. It's a different campaign. But anyway, I'm rambling again.
No, that's wonderful. And just let me add about Carlos' game. It's
Yes.
at the Twitch stream starts at 8, and there will be some chatting, and the game starts at 9 p.m. So it's 8 p.m. in the evening Eastern,
Eastern.
Eastern, and 9 p.m. Eastern the game actually begins. Yep.
Okay, I was going to say I better not be late.
Oh, okay?
on-
Yeah, and I've said that Mike and me will be playing in the game. Yep. We've have the honor of being invited for the game. So yep.
Man,
Awesome.
I might be going to St. Louis for a Comic-Con convention there that day. I
Uh-oh.
hope I'm not there too long. Get back in time for the Carlos's game.
Yep. So yep. So that's kind of yep.
What else? Guess we'll save Elves for another day.
Yes, we have to save Elves and their history and their impact on the Flannies for some other. They're my favorite race to play. So I'm kind of So I have a fondness for Elves. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. A lot of people are. So that's probably one of the reasons I kind of take in that they're because they seem to be the I always remember it was Talis Alanta, and what their slogan was "No Elves." Yep. And I was kind of, damn, there are no elves. I don't want to play there. So, yep. So it was one of these. Yep. Yeah,
Oh
but
boy.
it's fun. But yeah, but it's been an honor to have you on, Dave. It's been
Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
fantastic, and hear
And
about all the wonderful things that happens in the world of Greyhawk Reborn.
now
And
you know what time and day this stream goes on. If you want to come hang in the chat and talk to
yes,
Gary
and we would,
Holian and all
yeah,
the rest of us.
yeah, we would love to have you on now and then, so you can kind of update us on what's going on in your campaign and
I'd
the
be
new kind of
honored and
cool.
happy to be here
Yep.
anytime you guys want me. I will try to make myself available as well on the chat and be listening more.
Yep.
I want to. I've been so focused on getting what we're doing off the ground and doing things that I want to reach out into the Greyhawk community out there more and let folks know what we're doing and let folks know that there is a beacon of Greyhawk light out there that
Mm-hmm.
they can follow.
Yep. It's
So
fantastic, and you've
yeah.
been keeping the banner high on a lot
At
of
the
conventions
Vanguard.
and stuff. Yep, that's wonderful. So, do we have any last questions or good comments in chat here? So,
Oh, they're just saluting Dave and
yep,
Wood Elves rule.
yeah, wood elves rule. Okay.
That's my buddy.
Yep.
That's because that's all he runs. He only runs Wood Elves, Rangers, and Rogues. He
Yeah.
needs to learn how to run a wizard.
Well, I played a gnome sorceress, and that was in a Pathfinder campaign, and that was actually one of the best, most fun characters I've ever played. So there've been. I never thought it would be fun to play a gnome sorceress, but it was awesome fun. But she had a spear though. That was kind of her main thing. So yeah, and I found some cool spells that was normally you're supposed to have like something else throw, and so she made a spear version of the spell. So she had a whole bunch of spear themed spells and stuff. So that was kind of fun. So yep.
You can take any class and race and make them your own.
Yeah.
Just have fun. Do what you
Yep.
want to do.
Yep.
Play the game you want to play. Don't let anybody else tell you it's the game
Yep.
you play. I
Yep.
don't care what edition it is, and I don't care what game it is. Go do what you want and find like-minded
Yep.
individuals that want to do the same stuff. Go have fun.
Yep. So
Um,
yeah, so the final word I can simply say I will be back on Twitch on Tuesday at 6 p.m. for
nice.
my a map live stream that we will dig into some Illustrator stuff and start doing a template for the new version of the Atlas of the Flannies. That will be some of the main things, and then it will be Q&A and stuff. So if you want to come and ask a lot of technical questions and stuff, and of course Greyhawk questions too, but a lot of questions about map making and what I do and software and stuff like that. So yep, and there might be some of my top tier patrons will join on Zoom too. That might be as well. So that's what I want to plug the last bit for today.
I got another plug. Dang
Yeah.
it. Go to Tribality blog, the website Tribality. Read Blake Ryan's latest update on the Flaneus. He's done the town of Jakul, DJ, however you want to pronounce that, silent D.
Yeah, I'm getting the link here.
Oh, you got the link?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm getting the link here.
This would be the third town he's done. Many more to come.
Yep.
Hey, folks, come, while we're all doing plug-in, we're out here. We got a GHR website. We're on Facebook. We got a group. We got a page.
Yep.
Come join us. I hope we're going to have more stuff. We've got with Warduke Press, which is going to be an umbrella over GHR. We've got some exciting things planned for hopefully the near future and far future.
Yep.
We're excited where we're going. We've got all kinds of visions and dreams. Boy, come along for the ride. It's going to be fun. I'm hoping in a month or so we have an announcement about some other stuff we're going to be doing at Origins and folks we're going to be working with. It's exciting time to be involved in gaming.
Yes,
and it's
definitely.
a very exciting time to be involved with Grayhawk Reborn and Warduke Press. So come on in. Hope to see you folks all around again. If you have any other questions, you can always catch me, any number of places, email and stuff like that, Facebook. Be happy to chat with you anytime. Thanks for having me. It's been
it's
wonderful. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Dave, and thank you so much everyone in chat. The wonderful questions, comments, and all that. It's awesome. So So we will be back with Legends and Lore next Thursday, and
Next
I will
Thursday.
be back on next Tuesday. So
Do you want to try to raid Lord Gazumba's
we should
chat?
see if we can end this by raiding Lord Gazumba. So hang on a second
What do you
here.
got, Dave?
Yep, yeah. So okay, so thank you so much, everyone, and see you soon.
What else were you going to say, Dave?
Nothing. I'm just telling
Okay.
Tony Drexel, I better see him on Tuesday night's Anna's chat since he has questions about
There we go.
mapping.
Yep. So now we will raid in.
Yep. We're moving over to his stream now,
Let's see here.
which could be any second.
Now, it apparently didn't. Let's see. I don't think it didn't take. So I might not have the
Sure.
editorial.
I'm as I see it now, we're in his stream.
Okay, awesome. Then
Because it's
it
raiding
worked.
with a party of 15 people.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yep. So then I go to outro here, and I kill this